Amagansak, Nasipnisku, John Roberts, Dewayu, Simsiano, Doch, Gispiwara de Hooksku, Nida Willowalson. I'm manager of the Kerrisdale cameras in Coquitlam location, and I was just speaking to you in my ancestral language of Simalgach. I'm here together with my friend Jeff, manager of the North Vancouver location.
Hi.
We're here to have some fun today.
Before we continue and check out the new camera gear from Fuji Canada, we would like to acknowledge that we are located on the ancestral and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh First Nations.
We raise our hands in greetings. Lu'am Guru Nwil Nidasim.
Today we're going to be talking about the new Fuji X-H2 and the new 56mm 1.2, which is of course now designated WR.
As a portrait photographer, I'm very excited about that. And for the GFX crowd, we have the brand new 20-35 f4. That's going to be a beautiful landscape, architectural photography lens.
Exactly. Hi everyone, we're back now with the camera gear in question we're going to be talking about. So let's start off with the new Fuji X-H2. As you know, there is, I should say, the X-H2S.
Which is recording us right now.
Which is a fine camera. They are emphasizing the differences between the two cameras is that both of them use the same X Pro 5 processor, but the main difference is that the X-H2S is a faster camera. It would be
Life in motion was the
life in motion, I believe that they're using the term. Yeah. In the field that I was, or at least involved in at one point, ENG, electronic news gathering, fast speed, faster pace, lifestyle-wise, where it's not per se set in a tripod position in a studio environment. This one is said to be higher. Their emphasis was putting it to a higher resolution for both photo and video wise. So at this point, we are looking at a 40 megapixel sensor and 8K video recording capabilities,
yeah.
Which I believe, if my memory serves correctly, the X-H2S is 6K video recording at 26 megapixels.
But the X-H2S has a whole bunch of additional frame rates that the X-H2 No S.
Yes. So in other words, for your high speed, either at a higher frame rate recording or for slow motion applications, it's again, the X-H2S has its advantages over sheer resolution advantage of the X-H2. In question, this has like the high res mode, which will then use the image stabilization and move the sensor and capture multiple images and create a higher resolution image.
That's going to be fun for some landscape people. I know some of the other ones, other manufacturers that have had that, they've had some issues where if your subject's moving. I'm interested to see how this one does, because this one's going to be using 20 frames in a pixel shift. So I'm interested to see what the final image is.
Yeah. Which I would imagine that would be probably typically in a more controlled environment, like we were saying before, comparing the two cameras, in a tripod or in a fairly stationary situation, both stationary for the camera and assuming stationary for the subject matter. But as we know, there are some challenges with things like with landscape, with moving leaves and trees, of course. That would be interesting to see what that will be when the time comes. I guess one of the things that, since most of you are already familiar with the X-H2S, a lot of customized features. I won't get into all those at this point in time. There's a massive time constraints based on how much this camera can be programmed to. As one example, this thing has 7 custom channel settings or settings on the dial that you could make each and every one of them basically the camera the way you want it to, almost like as if it was an individual, another photographer. So I could have C1 for my preferences with shutter speeds, focusing, image stabilization, everything you could ever imagine. And then C2 would be for John's personal take of what he would prefer, both photo or even for video application. So it's amazing what they can do. But right now what we're going to do is probably just to show you just overall what the camera looks like. Again, not that much different from the X-H2S. You have your dual card slots, of course, one being your SD and the other one being your CF Express.
Type B.
Type B. Then you have all your connecting points, including USB Type C. You have what I actually am glad to see is a full-size HDMI port. You have your headphone jack and your standardized 3.5 millimeter audio jack. But we were just informed that, of course, with the Tascam accessory audio XLR adapter, you could add that to get into your multi-channel recording capabilities.
And up to 4 channels with that device.
So LCD display, and one of the points that the X-H2S has, of course, you'll notice those 2 mounting points there, which is what we're going to be demonstrating in just a short moment. But the other thing too, underneath the camera, you have your other connecting points for your battery grip, which is not just a battery grip anymore. In this case, you have your wireless transmitter or file transmitter for both wireless and wired. Wireless wise, it's basically improving the antenna. Instead of just a single antenna for transmitting wise, you have 2 antennas will amplify and help boost the signal for doing wireless transferring. But you have also the LAN connector, which is your Ethernet, and also another USB-C port that will help you doing the transfers. So
because the USB-C you could plug into a mobile device that will allow you to connect to your FTP to just upload straight to your DP, whatever the case may be. You're photographing the Olympics, videoing the Olympics. It can transmit the 8K video. It may take a while if you're doing it with a mobile device, but you can do it. That's great.
So with the fan cooling, we have now the attachments here. As you see here, I'm just removing the contact door. You'll see the 5 contact points, which actually now connects to, right hidden in here, the contact points there where it'll take the power from. So line those up. Screw in, thumb screw only. You don't need any tools for this, which is great. And what I checked out before, which I'm not sure we could actually see in this lighting condition, but when the camera is on, and when let me just turn it back on again. No, it might not show because of the brightness. Basically, there actually does mention when you attach the fan cooling to make sure that the thumb screws are screwed into place and not to forget it where it will fall off. So that's the fan cooling. In here, you'll see that the fan is, of course, concealed inside, and then the air intake and exhaust wise is on either side. So you have that, and then now to demonstrate the battery and the file transmitter. Not that much different from the original battery grip for the X-H1, where it holds 2 rechargeable batteries, as you see here. The idea is that you could truly operate all 3 batteries at the same time. So you have the battery in the camera compartment. You have now the 2 batteries here, and you could run them simultaneously. Talking about simultaneously, you can charge all 3 batteries simultaneously through the
USB-C
port on the camera, which of course, as a reminder, is right there. But there's also the convenience when you have this attached to the camera, which I'll show you in just a moment. Right now, we'll take the bottom cap off, put those aside so we don't lose them. Oop. Sorry, I had that out. Let me put that back in. So as you see, it all lines up accordingly. And then screw that in. No tools required, of course. So the whole point of the battery grip, or the vertical battery grip, as a reminder for some that aren't familiar with their cameras having this ability, you have, as you see here, the ability to then do your joystick controls, your thumb wheel controls, finger controls, all in the horizontal position. But when you go into vertical, all those same controls are right at your fingertips. Same with the joystick, right on the grip itself.
Including the ISO, white balance, etc., that are all right up here on the top of the camera. It's all duplicated.
So one of the other things that I actually found really interesting, that I find it's a move that I really appreciated. Instead of going through the menu or the function button to go into your different power modes, you have actually an actual hard switch here, going from normal, economy, and boost mode for your use based on your needs for photo or video applications. So the other thing that I also like to point out with the grip was that if you have this on a tripod or on a video rig, the idea of normally removing the tripod mount to access the battery compartment on the camera itself was a big pain. In this case, you could just slide the tray out and change out the batteries non-stop if you needed to. But also, if you look carefully, they have this little breakaway door here that will accommodate a AC adapter also, so you can actually run this in a rack system or just a AC power supply with the system attached. So what I'm going to do is pass the camera over to John here regarding the lens and the adaptation you could do with it.
So one of the things that I've always missed out on with the previous 56 is that it was not weather sealed, and as Jeff mentioned earlier, this is now a weather sealed lens. It now also is 11 aperture blades compared to the 9 of the previous one, so you're going to get smoother, rounder bokeh in the background. But they've also improved the performance in this one with the coma or something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, where if you remember, the Fuji, of course, had the two 56 1.2 lenses, the APD version, which they smoothed out the edge of the aperture, or when you open up the aperture completely at 1.2, they smooth it out with a special neutral density coating. In this case, with the more aperture blades and the improved coatings, they basically said that they're eliminating the need of that APD lens, and this is why this lens is going to be replacing both of them for that reason.
This one's actually going to be a better price than the older version as well.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense whatsoever, and that actually is an awesome photo of the cameras. Too bad there's no card in there right now. So yeah, this is a beautiful lens that I'm super glad that they were able to bring out, because when I'm out with my kids, they don't care about the weather. They love being out in the rain in their muddy buddies. And so if I wanted the 56, I couldn't take it out. I'd have to switch to my 50 f2 for the weather sealing. This now means I can get rid of my 50 f2 and
Yep, no need to be a fair weather photographer. You can go out anytime, any day.
Yeah, so better performance, WR, and cost less than the previous version. That's exciting.
Exactly.
That's very exciting.
But I'm guessing you brought this, which of course is Fuji's Leica M2 X mount adapter, for a reason.
For a reason. For anybody who knows me, I am a Leica shooter. For anyone who knows me, and one of the things I love doing is adapting my Leica M lenses. Rear cap that one, please.
Yep.
And now, with this 40 megapixel sensor, this should bring some beautiful photos. I love this 90. Damn. So, adapting lenses is one of the things I love about mirrorless photography, is being able to adapt all sorts of neat things. And adapting these Leica lenses to the Fujis is one of my favorite things. That's why I not only have the official Fujifilm adapter, but I also have a NovaFlex one for a couple lenses where the rear element sticks out too far. Not so far as to actually get into the camera, but far enough for the adapter, because the Fujifilm one is a little narrow on the inside. I love the ability to be able to adapt these Leica lenses.
And of course, the other thing to remind people about is that the other thing about adapting old lenses is that the classic look, and then now, of course, with Fuji with their film simulations, what more can you ask for?
Exactly. I've set up all my cameras to give me just the exact film simulation I want. So not only have I taken the base film simulation, I've tweaked each one to give me exactly the look I want each one, and then I've named them like I have in my other little camera here and my X Pro 2, and that's probably not going to change, because those Fuji colors, second to none. Second to none. That's going to be really front heavy now.
So, tell us about what your opinion is on the new GFX lens, because
that is going to be a very exciting.
I'll take that over.
Yeah, you take that back. We'll put my Leica over here, that one over here. But this gives you a much wider angle look than even just the other little primes that they have for this system.
True.
Unless you look at a third party, which does go a little bit wider. But this gives you that 16 to 28 equivalency.
Which is amazing. Out of technically a digital medium format camera, to get into that width is amazing.
Yeah. It is WR, just like the rest of the system, so it is weather sealed, which is beautiful. I love the fact that they are making everything on the GFXs weather resistant. Yeah, this is going to be such a beautiful lens for that sort of thing, and I may have to, before we send it back, I may have to take it past my river scene and photograph the river with this, because yeah, no card in camera. Because yeah, that's wide. That is very wide. What are your opinions on it?
I'm a wide angle junkie. For me, it's architectural photography and or abstract things. And for me, just exaggerating the perspective from what the human eye perceives as is what I love, because that's what attracts your audience, is seeing something that our eyes, our own human eyes can't achieve and see at one time. So to me, that is something that I was thrilled to seeing, and especially in a zoom lens. And it's not that, it looks large, but for that focal length range, for covering a medium format, it's not big at all.
For a GF system, it's not that big. Like it's not that much bigger, if at all, than say like the 24 to 70 2.8s that you see in other manufacturers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an 82 filter, just like some of the others. So it for what it offers is actually a very nice size. And I seem to remember that the price on this was going to be pretty
reasonable,
pretty
too.
reasonable as well. You'll see pricing in the description below and on our website.
But it's a nice thing that we're seeing, because basically what Fuji has been doing that we're quite happy and excited to see is that they're going from the pro high-speed lenses, which of course tend to be dramatically larger, to now their more compact series, which now their cameras are getting a lot smaller at that same time, that it makes it more portable. So it's a perfect alternative, like it's a serious contender, I should say, to some of the 24 by 36 full frame cameras out there, where I would call this one, if you want to call the other cameras full frame, then this would be a fuller frame camera, but it's definitely a strong contender when you're talking about, like, this is the GFX 100, so a 100 megapixel camera that is not that much different than the size of a DSLR out there, and now you have all the lenses that are matched accordingly, so it's a beautiful system.
Yeah, because again, looking at some of the manufacturers for their 16 to 35s, again, they're not This is not much bigger. It might even be similar size and weight.
And the need of anything faster isn't as needed nowadays because the sensors are improving so much more for high ISO with
high ISO, low light,
lack of noise.
Lack of noise.
So again, the advantage of an f4 constant aperture is the size again. And do we really need to go faster with a 2.8? It'll just make the lens huge. So this is a perfect combination.
Yeah, I really like this setup. Yeah, I may have to borrow one at some point.
Well, I guess that's covering about
it.
Which was actually quite surprising on how many things that came out all at one time. So once again, thank you Fujifilm Canada for providing us these to play around with and to show it off and to reveal it to our audiences. If you have any questions, I guess you can contact us through info@kerrisdalecameras.com, and that's info@kerrisdalecameras.com, or give us a call. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, John's from our manager, our Coquitlam location. I'm the manager at the North Vancouver location. There's, of course, a total of 7 different locations that whatever is closer to you, that's more convenient, give them a call. All of us will be able to help you out. We're all very helpful and knowledgeable, and hopefully we could help you out. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you all again in the next one. No touching me this time, Groot. I think we nailed it. Did we nail that?
Yes.